This is S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
S4. Greetings, folks, and welcome to S4, where we talk about the real issues involving paranormal and current events, coming to you live from the S4 headquarters in the heart of the Cascade Mountains of Washington State. We also cover topics such as disaster and terrorist response and preparation, and veterans issues as appropriate. So tonight, it's the 2nd of February, and I'm still wondering if the damn groundhog saw a shadow, but I don't know. No?
Mild winter or mild spring.
Okay. But it's our first Sunday show. We will run every Sunday from 7 to 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time from now on until the end of eternity here. Tonight we have a special guest, Debra Jayne East, who has had UFO encounters since a child in Virginia with some significant UFO experiences of her own. She had a radio show of her own 8 years ago, which is when I first met Debra, actually, as a guest on her show. She has written several books, has 2 being published in a couple weeks. So tonight with us we have Kayla Wigleiter, Don's not here, never mind. Jamie Justice, our local consultant, and Debra Jayne East, lifetime experiencer, author, radio host, and guest of S4. So how are we doing tonight, guys?
Doing good.
Excellent.
My team was losing when I left, but that happens.
I was about to say, how's the
Super Bowl
doing?
Well,
you know, I'm not into the Super Bowl if the Seahawks aren't playing. That's just, Seahawks, they didn't make it. Screw it, I ain't watching that shit.
San Francisco was up, and that's bad because I don't like them. If the Seahawks aren't playing, it's whoever. I am rooting for whoever's playing the Patriots, whoever's playing the Broncos, and whoever's playing the 49ers.
Right. So, let's see. We've just gone through probably the worst 72 hours of the winter so far.
Whoa.
What?
You really just going to go right into it?
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, new night, new hours. Come on.
Of course. I'm getting there, damn it.
First and foremost.
Oh, no, but, I mean, shit, you guys got lucky. You can see the river almost in your backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost sent the kids swimming because they were being really annoying without their devices.
So, how much rain did you get, Debra? Yeah. Damn. I don't think we've seen any cars flow away, have we?
Not here.
Not here.
Not floating away.
And so Cole got an interview on Q13?
Yeah.
Last night.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the Red Cross
Hey,
shelter.
Tim. How you doing?
Hey, Tim, you made it to the new day and time. Outstanding. But yeah, you know, we set up the Red Cross shelter last night at the Lyman Elementary. Nobody showed up. Well, you guys showed up for power.
They didn't even have coffee ready.
Well, no, we just set up the damn thing. And right now I know they're in Whatcom County. They wanted to know if I wanted to come up to Whatcom County and work the shelter there, but no.
Well,
if they really need me, I will. But they've got enough people. There was
a lot of volunteers there.
They have enough personnel in Whatcom County. And I agreed when I first signed up that I would work Skagit. If a major disaster happens in Snohomish or throughout the state, I can go.
I do got to say a huge thank you to all the linemen that were out there working throughout this storm. You guys did an amazing job. We had projections of 7 to 10 days, and you guys had us back up in a day and a half.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And look. Well, thank you. I do try. I do try. I catch a lot of shit too, but it's okay. Yep. Well, you got to understand too. That was we got derailed really because we were supposed to have first annual Paracon in concrete, and we got derailed by the community. Exactly a week before Paracon was supposed to kick off, and we've been planning this thing for a year, and so we had to jump through our ass. We got Lake Tide. So yeah, your first Paracon with us was up at Lake Tide in the lodge. And that was great for what it was for our first year. We had what 60, 70 people showed up in the backwoods. I mean, and that was Derek's first book, I believe, was it not? Damn.
Knocked out Chariot of the Gods that had been number one for 40-something weeks. So that really got his career started, and he's on his third book now. And it's been a wild ride. We just recently spoke at the Contact in the Desert conference, which was a whole nother experience I'll talk about later. But it really has opened our eyes to a lot of stuff, because when you're out in the field, which I'm sure they do this to you too, Eric,
right.
People come up to you and talk to you, and they tell you things. And it's been a real learning curve, learning how to discern the truth from the confused, from several other different things in the field. So it's been a huge learning experience for us.
Well, and for anyone new, I would say if you want to get your information out, you go on radio shows.
You have to.
That's how you that's how you develop your following, your knowledge, your book, and then you just start hitting. We're taking S4, for example, to the Oregon
Ghost Conference, March 27th through 29th. Get your tickets. We're in Seaside, Oregon that weekend.
Yep.
Tickets are going on sale soon. They got actually a really big lineup of speakers, including Mike Morin.
Yep, they have Mike Morin. They have Ross Allison.
Hey, Chris.
Looking forward to it.
Congratulations. That's wonderful, guys.
It's going to be fun.
It will.
Yeah, we're not taking the kids.
Oh, boy. It's really good. Let me tell you, when we went to Contact in the Desert last year, it was nothing like we thought it would be. First of all, there were a lot of other people there, probably like over 100 speakers every night.
Damn.
The place was as big as 2 football fields, the resort that they had it at, and there were multiple areas with conference rooms, and so they simultaneously had all these classes or speakers you could go and see. Well, we didn't realize the extent of how many Starseed people were there. We were the new guys on the block, and so we had the worst venues. We had to set up in the farthest away conference areas, and it was 110 degrees in the heat. We had to carry all those books and walk actually the length of a football field and a half. After we got inside the conference area, there was a big center area that was open with swimming pool and arenas and stuff. So dragging all that stuff everywhere and it being so hot, it was exhausting, and it took a lot of time, to get around. But they had a few speakers there that we were familiar with, and then they have, I'm just going to be honest here, the fluff speakers that don't really know anything, but they have a huge following and they're very commercial.
Right.
I'm sure you could think of some, and they really get top billing over everything. So it was good that we got to speak out. Believe it or not, one time, the second day that Derek spoke, they gave us the earliest venue there is, because nobody wants that at 7:30 in the morning, which meant we had to get up at 4 a.m. to get ready and to get a taxi there and all this kind of stuff. He had each time he spoke, our conference area was filled up. They fully embraced him, and he did great. And so we had a lot of people there. I recognized people. There were some from the Navy. There were several radio producers. There were a lot of My Labs there. There were some people that we forged good friendships with. There were abductees. There were parents there that suspected their children were being abducted, which was surprising to us, and bought books. But everybody, all in all, was just there seeking answers. So we were grateful for that opportunity, although it wasn't quite what we perceived it to be.
Now, so you just piqued my interest. So were there kids abductees, or were there kids hybrids?
Their kids were abductees.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example. One mother came to us, and she had tears in her eyes, and she came up and she said, I really wish my son would have come to this second day. Said he came last night and listened to the first conference Derek did, which was about underground bases, and she said he kept on saying, I've experienced that. And he said it a couple of times, and she said, I have long suspected that he was being abducted, but he doesn't want to talk about it. And I said, well, that's common. Teenage boys don't really like to talk about stuff like that with their parents, because their parents will think, they're off or something, and it's a hard topic. She said, I just want to get a doorway for him. And the next day, she tracked us down, and she was so grateful. She said, I just wanted to know what I could do to protect him. And she said, I feel so much better since I came. The whole ordeal made it worth it just for her comments. And the other people that came were people from MK Ultra that had been indoctrinated in the program against their will. They flock to these things in droves because they're still looking for answers, and they don't always get it in the mainstream media. They get a polished version that's most of the time not even from a real abductee,
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course the ones that are the fluff crowd, and by fluff I mean people that are not abductees, They've never had an experience or anything like that. They say things that totally no other researcher has ever said. There's no proof, there's no evidence, and they are marketed for the media. And those are the headliners that usually take these conferences on, but it should be expected because in every field, I know you have found this out too, Eric, there are always some frauds, some disinformation people there in the mix. I mean, I've seen it everywhere.
And with those, it's always a hit. You don't know if it's because they just want their own personal fame, their own personal glory, or if they're actual government implants to throw everybody off the track.
Well, there's government implants, and we haven't told you this because we really didn't want to stir up more trouble, but there was a plant there at the conference that at your conference when Derek and I went there. We think we know which one it is, but when we got back home, we got a friend request, and they first said, I met you at the conference, blah, 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 wrote a few things, and then the next thing we know, they're trying to set up incriminating evidence to take us out. And, yeah.
And that's what's interesting, because the government, I think for the most part, got away from just killing people and remove them that way. Now they either plant child porn or discrediting information that'll send them to prison to get them out of the way. You see that too.
They sure will. And what they did is they had one site which looked like a normal person's profile, and we recognized the picture of the person. We think they had a hat on, so it was hard to see the full face. But then the next time we got online and we were looking at it, it had changed to a site that was not good. They totally changed their profile picture, their images, and they were sending all kinds of messages that weren't nice, if you know what I mean. So we immediately knew what it was, and we blocked that person. But it was, and then after that, on Amazon, on our websites, everywhere, a disinformation person, I think it was probably the same one, they came trying to take us down, to give conflicting information, to call us frauds, all that stuff. So you wouldn't expect it, because, I mean, your place was really out in the wild,
Right, right.
But they were there. They came, and that was Derek's first public appearance, and without a doubt in my mind, we know that was a government person. So you just don't ever know. You have to be protective of yourself. No, they don't kill people necessarily anymore, but they do disinformation. They try to take you down and spread innuendo. That's their favorite thing to do.
And if I remember right, when you guys were writing that book is when the Astral team had to do like an overwatch to keep infiltrators from coming in too, correct?
Oh my gosh, we were not prepared for that.
No.
Let me tell you, this is also information nobody knows, but we had another author, a very famous author, was going to write a foreword for our book. And I helped Derek with the editing and all of the publishing, helped him go through all that because I'd worked for a publisher. So we were in the process of doing that, and this other author was supposed to write a foreword. And we were getting ready to put the book out, and so Derek asked him, "Are you done with it?" Because I'm ready to publish my book. Well, we didn't hear from him for a week. Well, I had interviewed this author on my radio show before. That's how Derek got introduced to him. And I didn't hear anything from him. And then all of a sudden, I got a message from him, and he said, "I can't believe what's happened to me." And I said, "What happened to you?" He said, "I was abducted." He said, "On my way to work," he was writing a conspiracy book about the Kennedys. And he said they took me in for questioning. They held me there for a week. They finally went after 4 days and told his wife that he would be back, that he was okay, blah, blah, blah. So we don't know if all of that happened or not. That's what he told us. But he said they have a copy of your manuscript. We were thinking, oh my God, they have it. So, I mean, Derek had already had the Alphabet Agency come to his door in the 90s and tell him not to publish that book. And it had remained on his shelf in the closet since 1997. And it was there when I came up here. That's where he got it from. Because he thought, well, if they come to my door, they also, online, they caused all kinds of havoc. They tapped his phone. They did all this stuff. So we were terrified. We went through that just from the initial publishing of the book. Now, I have heard since then that they have people in the copyright office. They're agents in there. That's how they know. That's how they know these books are coming out. But my overall opinion is, just like they do on other news in America, they just don't address it. They're silent, so people will have to wonder. There's so much disinformation out there. They're thinking, oh, they can't sort through that. We'll just hire somebody to go on their YouTube channel and call them a fraud. They did that with us. Derek would be on there, and people would come on. There was a group of them, and they said, this is not really Derek Tyler. He's the caller. He's the caller from the Art Bell radio show that was on there, saying he was terrified. Do you remember that? He came on Art Bell and he said they were after him and all this kind of stuff, and he couldn't talk. And I thought, are these people crazy? I'm right here looking at him. I've seen his birth certificate. I know who he is. He's not the Area 51 caller. Right. But there was like 117 people that said, oh, he sounds just like him. They did this to discredit him. He sounds nothing like the caller. So these are the type of tactics they do when you're trying to put out the truth. They make it difficult for you. The big, extremely popular crowds, like the Contact in the Desert crowd and certain other, big groups, they just they make money off of these conferences. There are lots of conferences that don't make money, but they use this as a marketing tool, getting a big variety of people so they can make money. So it's just all really messed up, I think, because we shouldn't have to work so hard just to try to get the message out there.
No, not at all. I still don't have a copy of the book.
Didn't we leave a copy up there with you?
No, I never got a copy of it.
Oh, wait a minute. I believe we left it. I think you gave a drawing for that book. That's what that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we would have gave you one. We have plenty of copies, but I'll send you a copy if you email me.
Okay. Sounds awesome.
I would love one.
Huh?
I said I would love one.
Yeah, I only have 2 extra copies here, and 1 copy is going out to somebody. Just send me an email and let me know, and I'll tell you how we can get you a copy.
Yeah, if you can get me a copy out, for sure. I have a copy at the house, but it's Debbie. She's probably listening too. Yes, Debbie Nickerson, I still have your book. But yeah, and he's already in what, book 3?
Yeah, book 3. It's let's see. The first one is Alien Contact: The Difficult Truth. The second one is Alien Contact: Paradigm Shift. And I think the third one is, I'm not sure, so this might not be right, but it's Alien Contact: Pac Draconis. Okay. And it's about reptilians, I think. I think that's the next one in order. He's already got these books written. He just has to put them together. He has all the chapters written.
Right.
And puts them together like a puzzle. That's how I write too, because we're both in our 60s, and so we write what comes to mind and make chapters of it, and then we just put them in a big portfolio, and then we decide which chapters go in which book and everything. So, but we're grateful. We're grateful for the opportunity. I mean, Derek's overall report from his work, oh my gosh, he has got letters from all over the world. He has got letters from generals in the military saying that they read his book and they learned things, and abductees from, New Zealand, from the UK. I mean, it's from all over the world. He gets letters of gratitude saying, now I understand what's happened to me. For an abductee, knowing that we can relieve some of the stress from people, because you go through a period where you think you're crazy or you're imagining it. It's so surreal.
Oh, we get it on the show all the time. We'll have people, folks that pop into the chat room that we try to do an abduction signs and symptoms show at least every 2 to 3 months. And, So,
education is good.
Education's
good. Yeah. And some of these people are in bad shape, Eric. I've talked to hundreds of people because, as you know, I do a radio show too. And I spoke, for instance, with an abductee that was in Texas. She was a sheriff. She was hardworking. She was extremely good at her job. I noticed that she watched a lot of my posts and made comments, and she wanted to speak to me one time, so I did. And it took like 3 phone calls, and then she finally said, I need to tell you something. I have not told anybody except my 2 family members. And she said they're experiencing it too, so that's why they know. But she said, I'm in law enforcement. I have been told by my psychiatrist. She said she had to go to counseling. They told her, they recorded everything. They said, do not tell people, in public that you experience this, because then you'll probably lose your job because they'll say you're crazy. They said just keep on coming and, to therapy, and we'll work with you. She also somebody got wind of what happened to her anyway, and she got contacted by a judge that she was friends with, and who also told her, don't tell anybody. This person was tortured. I mean, they came after her. She was abducted so many times. I mean, even as I knew her, she told me one evening her and her 2 daughters went out on their front porch and they saw a black helicopter coming. And she said, the next thing I knew, I woke up standing in my living room with my 2 daughters beside me, and we didn't know what happened. So there was a lot of military things going on in Texas that year. This was about 3 years ago.
Oh, Texas
a lot
is full
of
of them all the time.
Yeah, a lot of unusual things, and a lot of UFO sightings. So she told me some fantastic things. Now, there's no reason why a sheriff would have any reason to lie about something like that.
Well, I can tell you for a fact, based on what our team's done, that there are underground bases in Texas as well that are utilized by aliens.
Yep.
So,
I'm scared of that.
Yeah, so they keep watch on everything. They know everything because, I mean, it's no secret that all communications, Skype, your telephone, social media, they know. But you know what? Here's the thing. There's so many of us, they can't hire enough people to look at it.
No.
So it takes a while sometimes, to get a hold of people. But, the other thing you brought up is about, our contact energies that came after us. Oh my gosh. I never believed in reptilians until probably 5 years ago when I interviewed James Bartley. But Their energy is very strong. We experience some weird stuff.
I'm going to say one thing about reptilians. They're about the nastiest, smelliest.
Yes.
I've had 2 personal encounters with reptilians. You've never heard this shit.
Well, I've never had any type of encounter. I still have a hard time with that one, just because the only thing I can imagine is the 90s Super Mario Brothers movie.
Right.
Where they all turn into the Koopas and they become the old dinosaurs, and that's all I see.
See, the first
and
time...
they're big and dumb.
No, the first time I encountered...
tell us your story, Eric, because it was fascinating.
Well, ironically, the one was at Fort McPherson, Atlanta, Georgia. The other was on Fort Lewis. So, and at that point in time, I was actually in Atlanta. I was followed. I was bugged. I was harassed. Not so much at Fort Lewis, but in Atlanta, oh my God, Atlanta, a lot of crazy shit happened. But that was weird because I stepped out of my apartment. It was a good 100 degrees outside. I had never seen a praying mantis in my life. I looked down, and there's like 10 praying mantises around my feet. I was like, whoa, what the hell is this? And I took a step over them, and I stepped away from them. Because I still didn't know what was going on. Praying mantises are a sign that reptilians are around. They can be. So you walk into a pet shop, and there's some praying mantis. That is not a reptilian there, no. But there could be.
That's a good cover.
But it was, and I didn't, both times I didn't. It wasn't a physical being that was there. I couldn't see anything that was there. It's just it's just a presence that you feel.
You're right. Yeah.
And it was an energy that I felt, and instantaneously, my stomach hurt. I mean, it was pain. It wasn't like a stomach ache hit me and I got it. No, I had physical pain in my stomach, and I knew exactly where they were. I could see right where. I think there was only one, and it attacked me for about 10 minutes, and it was like a dog whistle. It was like a real high, shrill dog whistle sound that you're not supposed to hear. And
I was just going to say, you heard that?
It sounded like what a dog whistle is supposed to sound. It was a high, shrill, piercing noise. And as soon as that hit, I was back to normal. It was completely normal. It was gone. The praying mantises were gone. Everything was gone. I'm like, what the hell was that?
Interesting.
But I didn't smell anything at that point. Now, at Fort Lewis, exactly 10 years later, because this happened in 99, so in, so 07, 08, around that time period on Fort Lewis. It was weird because I pulled up to the shop in my van, and I got out of the van, and this guy stopped, and he said, dude, it looks like all the fluids are leaking out of your van.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Like, seriously? And I don't know why. That van never ran again. I actually had to have that van towed back to my housing. It never ran again. But it was weird because I stepped around in front of my van and I felt that same presence again. This time I smelled it. It smells, and I've said this on the show before, a long time ago, but it smells like a cross of sewer and rotten flesh. It's the most god-awful smell you could even think of. And again, I think there was only one. I don't remember if there's more than one, but it was just there. I don't know why. I don't know why they visited me. I have no idea. Well, yeah, there's other stories, but yeah, those are my 2 reptilian encounters.
I don't want one of those.
No. Now, I hate to spook you, Jamie, but they're up on Sauk Mountain. But
I know, but they're coming for me.
No, they're not. That's
That
not.
sounded fun.
That's not the reptilians.
That's not what they're doing there. Trust me.
No,
Yeah,
they
well,
have a lot
Cole,
of underground bases.
You come over
they
and take
do.
my place.
Actually, I'd be willing.
What?
Well, you mentioned something, Eric, which I think most people don't realize. You know, you said that you couldn't see anything, but you felt their energy.
Yep.
Now, that is very, very true. I didn't have any experience at all with reptilians. I had a radio show that I was doing, and I was on a big station, and so I was doing my show, and I noticed a change in my co-host.
Mm-hmm.
And he was an abductee. He did not know who or what was abducting him. He was a photographer, got a lot of good images and stuff, but I could tell he wanted to tell me something, but he was too ashamed to. And so finally I just said, I'm just going to call him Dave, okay? I said, Dave, what's wrong with you? You just don't seem yourself. And he said, I can't really tell you. I told my wife, but I can't tell you. I'm too embarrassed. And when he said that, weirdly, I picked up on the energy, and I knew what it was. And I wasn't equipped to counsel him, but I knew someone who specialized in counseling people who were experiencing reptilian psychic attacks.
Right.
So I referred him to my friend, and I told her my suspicions. I said, I'm just going to tell you what I suspect, no details. And so anyhow, it turns out I was right. A couple of weeks later, he spoke with me, and he said, I've been having the strangest dreams, if that's what they are. And he said, I am embarrassed to even talk to you. He said, but I know you're a researcher, and you might can help me. So what he explained was he was having dreams about women. He said, I love my wife. He said, I adore her. And he did. He loved his wife. He would have dreams, sexual dreams, about exotic-looking women that he would never really be interested in otherwise. It was like a taboo type of woman.
So you say exotic looking women. I would say reptilian. They look, because reptilians can appear human too. So I'd be wondering if the exotic looking women were actual reptilians.
Well, no, this wasn't a reptilian. She was like an African princess. He was Caucasian. She was ebony black, and she had like very large eyes, a lot of markings on her body, and like tattoo things. I mean, she was a totally different type of woman than he would. He lived in a small town. I mean, they don't have a lot of people that walk on the streets that have tattoos and have tribal headdress on and all this kind of stuff. It was, something he wasn't used to. So he was he said, I knew it was taboo, but I was drawn to this woman. And then he was, the next thing, and I'm just going to say it, he was performing a sexual act on this person in his dream, and then he looked up, and it was no longer that woman. It was a reptilian.
Mm-hmm.
And he freaked out. He was horrified. He said, I could not. He said, when I woke up, I had a full sweat on me. He said, I don't want to do this. He said, I feel horrible. Why is this happening? And I said, well, that's what they do. Reptilians can also rob people. We are made of energy. Even our emotions are energy. Sexual energy is very powerful to reptilians.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told them that's what they do. It's called the bait and switch. They draw you in, and then you find out they do that because when he was in that dream or that experience and he saw what it really was, he said, I screamed like a little girl. He said it was horrible because he was then performing that act on the reptilian. And they do that because whatever they can do to get a shock, the more energy you put out, the more they can absorb.
It's fear they feed off of.
Fear. And so I watched him, and then I saw something like a month later. I noticed more changes in him. And he came in a chat room. I was doing a show. He was in the chat room. And then out of the blue, he posted pornographic pictures of lizards. Believe it or not, it was like a drawing of lizards having sex. And they immediately said, "What are you doing?" They said, "Get him out of here." So they banned him from the chat. They banned him. I immediately took a break, and I said, "What are you doing, Dave? You can't do that. There's all kinds of people." There was actually people in there watching the show because they were going to sponsor our network. And I said, "Man, you just ruined our chances of getting sponsored by posting that horrible stuff." And his answer was, "Well, somebody would have done it." And I said, "Well, it didn't have to be you."
Right.
He totally did not understand why he posted that. And he was confused. And then, like a couple of days later, he said, "Did I really do that?" And I said, "Oh, yes, you did." So that's how these reptilian energies can be in your life and environment, influencing your dreams, draining you of energy. They do it all the time, and who would believe it? But I watched him, and he was a really nice guy. This was so totally not like him. It was just really shocking, but that's what goes on with the reptilians, And they're a warlike race too. They're not our friends.
No. So there's supposed to be like 16 different races of reptilians. Some of them are, I guess, for lack of a better word, nicer than others. But the more common, the Draco, for example, the Draco is supposed to be an earthbound reptilian race that lives up in Mount Rainier, for example.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that the Romplins, which, oh God, what's her name? Shirley MacLaine sold it to her. I can't remember the name that runs the Romplins. Look up romplin.org and you'll find them. But they have a compound out of Yelm that believes in lizard people that live underneath Mount Rainier. So, Jamie, don't worry about the reptilians because they ain't coming for you. They ain't gonna come on your property.
I got you,
know.
Jamie.
Huh?
I got you.
No,
You don't know.
I have an agreement with them.
Those are just those long lost Darrington folk.
If you look at our history, Eric, back hundreds of years ago, you'll find all kinds of reptilian statues. And,
yeah, exactly.
I could go on right now and find 50 or 60 of them.
Oh,
Creatures,
for
they
sure.
look just like a walking reptilian. And that woman that I told you about, the sheriff in Texas, told me about her friend Betty, that one night they were inside their house with her son and his wife, and all of a sudden there were lights shining in their window from something outside. She thought, well, is it a helicopter? Well, it's not making any sound. And it was actually from her neighbor's house close to her. So she called Betty. Betty never answered the phone, and the next morning Betty's son called and said she's in the hospital. And so my friend said, well, what happened to her? He said, I can't explain it, but we saw the lights, outside our house. And when we went out there to see what was going on, our dog was dead. It looked like it had been fried, like radiated.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, standing up in the yard on hind legs, they said it looked like an alligator walking. And it shocked Betty so much, she had to be hospitalized. And she ended up staying there for like 3 months. She lost all this weight. They raised the house. 2 months later, they totally took the house down. They had people there with a Geiger counter, like trying to see if there was radiation. They sent the dog off for an autopsy, I believe, but this was in Texas, so these types of things, they get hushed up really fast.
All the weird shit happens in Texas. Chupacabra.
I think so.
I mean, seriously, chupacabra. I think
No.
there's even cases of Mothman going to Texas. Really?
Okay.
If you remember from last week, we had a quick conversation about devil monkeys that Kayla had heard about. I have finally
Never heard about them.
Devil monkeys? They're in North Carolina.
I'm telling you. They're
Oh,
devil
no.
monkeys. I told you.
No?
No, not North
No.
Carolina. It was Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Georgia.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look them up.
That's the other place everything starts.
I've been in research mode, so.
I told you there were devil monkeys.
Oh, so I've got to ask you. So you look at some people like John Ventura, some of the other self-proclaimed experts, and
Career experts, yeah.
I wouldn't even call them. I wouldn't even give them that name. But they're on the demon bandwagon. So, do you think reptilians are demons?
No.
Thank you.
No, they are not. They are not. They look, now, let me tell you, some of their appearances look demonic.
Right.
But you know what? People forget. The devil was a handsome man. He was good looking. He was not the thing with the, horns and a tail and everything.
He was supposed to be
You
one of the
wouldn't get
most.
laid that way.
Right.
No,
these
he was one of the
reptilians-
most beautiful angels.
Right. There was nothing ugly about him. So, but these
I think
these
that depends on what
reptilians-
religion you go by.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's just my own personal belief, but I don't think they're demonic, and the reason why is because they seem to go after a specific type of person, so to speak. They don't go after everybody. Not everybody can see them or feel their energy.
No.
Now, because I'm an abductee, as I'm sure people have told you a lot, you develop some empathic abilities, you become intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an all the time thing you can do, but sometimes you feel that difference in the air. It's like a heaviness. It's like you think, wow, did a dark cloud just come over my world? You feel a weight, and you don't know what it is, and that energy is unmistakable. So that's how you recognize it. But they, in Derek's book that he wrote, the colonel said they worked with them, and he said, I have to work with them because we have an agreement to. He said, but I wouldn't have them in my house. He said their IQs are 200 and above. He said they look at us like we are fodder under their feet, because we are. Some of these, aren't they up to 9 feet tall, Eric? Some of them?
Say again?
Aren't reptilians extremely tall sometimes?
Depending on which race you're looking at, some of them are 9, some of them are 7 to 8. I believe the Dracos are the short. And don't quote me on this. I think the Dracos are the shorter of them, and they're like between 5 and 6. So
Well, I will tell you this: there is another form of reptilians, the hybrids.
right.
And, I've got 2 books that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks. The second book is called The Pilot, Conversations with an Extraterrestrial. Now, part of the information that my whistleblower gave me was he was in the military, and he also was employed to do some things that he couldn't ask any questions about. They sign a confidentiality agreement.
Right.
And so he had to do these things or face consequences. He experienced hybrids that were human, half reptilian looking.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of the attributes of the full reptilians. They're extremely powerful. They are smart. They spoke a different language that he couldn't understand. And this is the kicker. This will just flip you, Eric. They wore army clothes. Have you ever heard of Corsico boots that the Army issued out back in the day? It was a specific kind of boot that the Army wore that was made for them for combat and everything.
Chloroform?
It's called, let's see, Corsico, I think. Corsico.
That sounds familiar.
Like that.
That'd be a company name.
Right.
Okay.
He said, my friend noticed that they had on these boots. They were extremely wide in the shoe part. He said it looked like a clown shoe. He said it was very wide, where the toes were. He said because their feet were probably like lizard feet. He said that's the only thing I can think of. And he said they had on Army-issued clothing, but they were also working with our military. So that should be alarming to all of us. It really should. Now, this whistleblower, he has not told anybody. It's been 50 years since this happened. The confidentiality agreement that he signed is up. He's getting ready to die. He's been a recluse all these years. He's extremely intelligent, smart. He has told me the same stories in different ways several times. He's never changed his story. And when I did research on the locations, I found out that they were hiding in plain sight. They were buildings that were advertised as one thing, but they were actually there for meetings with extraterrestrials and our people. Not only did they know about it, the government, but they participated in it. And the facts that he shared about these hybrids, like one time they were talking and they were laughing, and he asked one of them, he said, "What are you talking about?" Because he couldn't understand their language. There were 4 or 5 of them. And their reply was, "We were making a bet on which one of us could snap your neck the fastest." He said, they said, "We don't like you. You're not doing," he had bought his wife with him to deliver some goods. They didn't like it. They were mad. And she was out in the truck, and he thought he could just dump the, supplies and leave, but they saw her in there.
Right.
So they were mad about that, and so they wanted to terrify him. And so they grabbed the wife, they took her in another room. He could hear her upset, and they threatened him and said, "We could do this, but," they said, "we can jump as high as a tree with the snap of our fingers." He said, "We could knock your head off and kill you in the blink of an eye." And he said, "I didn't doubt them." He said they just got a hold of his arm and shoulder and dislocated his shoulder. So these hybrid beings, the government has always been trying to develop a super soldier. They've been doing that for years, and so they finally figured out, if they're going to create a super soldier, it's going to have to be with another race that is stronger than ours.
Yeah.
So that's a terrifying thing.
And is that why my labs happen?
For the most part, I did find this out, that our people know every time when someone comes into our airspace that's not ours. They know. That's also in the agreement. But they also, because they did find out that the extraterrestrials were taking too many people, they had an agreement to take a specific amount in the Greada Treaty.
Yeah, the Greada Treaty.
Right, they did that, but they were taking more. So then they started saying, well, if your ships come down here, we have to send one of our people with you, and vice versa, because we don't trust you. We know you don't trust us. So they started working together like that. The reason why my labs is, number one, our side wants to always know what they're up to, what they talk about, what they ask, and what they're doing to the people. They try to back engineer everything, and some of these people that are abducted, have implants. or they teach them to do things.
Here's my question about the Griata tree, though, because we just talked about this, last week?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And what if the Griata Treaty wasn't for all abductions? What if the Griata Treaty was only a treaty to track MyLabs?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've heard a lot of what's in the treaty, but I haven't seen an actual copy of it. But it's a possibility. It could be a clause in there because
how are we going to control? How are we going to be able to count and track exactly how many people are being abducted? Why not make it a smaller scale and just make it MyLabs?
Well, there's a possibility because every day in America, thousands of people disappear.
Yeah.
But I have noticed that the majority of them disappear around huge parks.
Yep.
Where there's limited people.
I like David Paulides' work.
Right. I've read a lot of his work and strange occurrences like a person would disappear. This specific man, I think his first name was George, he went hiking. He had a tent. They found he disappeared. Somebody came up to visit him one day and they couldn't find him. They found his clothes and one boot. They didn't find anything else. They looked everywhere. They went all around that tree. They went down below. They couldn't find him. 4 days later, a couple called into the sheriff's department and said, "We saw something strange in the sky with a light beaming down at a tree." Mm-hmm. And it was over on this location, so they went to that location. It was in the area of the man that disappeared. Okay. They looked up in the tree and just decided, well, maybe we should go up in the tree and check to see if any of the leaves are damaged or whatever. They went up in that tree. They found the man's other boot with his foot in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it did have radiation. So this tells me that, they may be getting these people to experiment on, or who knows. But
honestly, with Paulides' work, with Missing 401, I don't think, and we're getting close to the first break, but I don't think it's all alien. I think part of it is I think part of it's portals people walk into. I think part of it's government abduction. I think part of it's I don't think Bigfoot's taking people, but there's always that possibility. But I don't think so.
With that possibility, I'm going to cut you off here. We're going to go to break, people. We've got Cryptamnesia here with Poltergeist. Join us for the second hour as we continue talking to Debra Jayne East.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I'm rotted here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire. But I cannot die, I am your poltergeist. Trying to kill me, but I cannot die. You try to ignore me, but I haunt you deep inside. You keep trying to kill me, but I cannot die. You try to ignore me, but I haunt you deep inside. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I brought it here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire. But I cannot die. I am your poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. poltergeist. Oh, you're caving in, the loss of sleep keeps you obsessing on your pride, but in the end you let me in. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, cause I'm wanted here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, it watches I catch fire, but I cannot die. I am your motherfucker. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, cause I brought it here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, it watches I catch fire, but I cannot die. I am your poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Oh, poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist.
Welcome back to S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
2, 1, go.
Welcome back to S4, to our new night, Sunday night, 7 to 10 p.m. It's so much nicer. I can't wait for the summertime, and we're sitting here sweating our asses off doing a show. And it's still going to be daylight. Anyway, so then we have Debra, Jayne East, longtime friend of mine, and FMP, and S4, and Paracon. Just a longtime friend. With a plethora of experiences to talk about. It's going to be a great show tonight.
I want to do a quick shout out to all the Kansas City Chiefs fans. Congratulations. Your first win of a Super Bowl in 50 years. For anyone that tells me that that's not paranormal, I don't care. It is. Friend, that is outside the normal of normal.
Right.
So, congratulations, guys. Well earned.
Excellent. And welcome back, Don. I know you were wrapped up in the Super Bowl and missed the call.
Yeah. It was a good game.
Yeah, it was.
Who are you rooting for?
Oh, the Niners. They're 2 hours away. I can't not root for them, you know.
Well, yeah, you can.
I'm a Dolphin fan myself.
Try a little harder next time, Kate.
No,
Yeah.
try harder for the Seahawks. But, yeah, okay.
No. Dolphins all the way.
No.
You'll get beat up down there.
Oh, and this month, we're in February now, so this month, I know, is the San Francisco UFO Symposium.
Yes. Yeah.
With which Lorian Fenton runs, which that's
Dave Scott will be heading down there.
Dave Scott will be heading down there, and of course we're taking S4 to the Oregon Ghost Conference. Can't wait for that one. And then of course we're going to the Skagit Valley Fair in August, and probably if you have an event you want us to come to, we'll definitely come and hang out and have our S4 booth and have a blast. We always do. Oh,
absolutely.
So,
Hey, Eric, I have a question to ask you.
yeah.
Recently, I've been hearing about a lot of Bigfoot activity back up there in your neck of the woods, as I like to call it.
Yeah, we can't
Especially
wait.
the Washington State Department of Transportation got an image near Sherman Pass.
They actually
And
got
I think
a video.
a couple of
Yep.
days after that, there was a video of, it looked like one walking up a hill. Do you hear a lot of stories about Bigfoot up there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Bigfoot's a state animal. They just don't. They won't say that, but
This is his front yard.
yep. So if you actually come up to my house, we actually have Bigfoot knocks, and my father-in-law actually saw a Bigfoot run through. I don't know how tall is those blackberry vines? About 7 foot tall.
No, they're 10.
Okay, 10 foot tall.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a bear because bears don't run on two legs, generally speaking. But it was a very large creature that ran through 10-foot tall of blackberry vines, grabbed our rooster, looked at him, and ran back through the trail that he made.
Oh my God.
Looked at his father-in-law, not the rooster.
Yeah.
So Bigfoot is a meat eater. I thought he just ate berries and.
Oh no! So Bigfoot is generally they're an omnivore, meaning they'll eat anything that's available, to including meat.
Oh no!
So,
well,
yeah,
that is
and
interesting. I never knew that.
I've actually I've actually heard Bigfoot knocks. I've knocked back and had them respond back in kind. So they do respond back intelligently.
Wow. Well, I'm new to being a Bigfoot believer because, my field was ufology and abductions and UFOs until I spoke with some people, actually at your conference up there that had viewed Bigfoot. So I started doing a bit of research here and there. But back in North Carolina, they have had lots of Bigfoot sightings. And one day I was at the local family dollar store shopping, and this man came in the store, and he had a big photo album with him, and he stepped in front of me. He said, "Do you mind if I show her something right quick?" I said, "No, go ahead." He had 12 images in his photo album, and they were images of footprints, size 24. He actually took it to a shoe store and had them measure it to see what size it was. He lived in a section of Stokes County, which is just like how it is up there where you live, Eric. It's just, trees and mountains and hills and stuff everywhere. He said that he had 5 acres of land, that it all had a fence around it. It was October. He said it's really cold and had been raining some. And his dogs were barking like 2 nights in a row, and he had some of his animals get injured. I can't remember. I think it was ducks or something. So he went out with his gun and to see what it was, and he found these footprints. And he said in the part that was mud, because it had rained a little bit, and then it froze, and so those footprints were like frozen into the ground. He said, nobody would be inside my property because I have a gate around my whole place, He said, but they surely wouldn't be going barefoot
Right.
when it got down to like in the below 30. He said, they wouldn't be doing that. He said, this has to be Bigfoot. And so I asked him where he lived, and I knew the section because, I was a social worker, and I was very familiar with all the, locations that were out in nowhere, because that's always where my patients were, in some place where I couldn't find them. So that was in North Carolina, and he said to have a foot this big, they estimated that it had to be at least 8 or 9 foot tall and probably weigh several hundred pounds because of how many inches the footprint was down into the ground. And so I thought, here is a man that's not trying to get fame. He's not went on television. He experienced this on his property. He had several prints. He wasn't a researcher. He had no idea if he was supposed to tell anybody about it. He just took those pictures for his own clarity about what was on his property. So that told me, everything that people talk about, they talk about Yetis and Bigfoot, some of it you think, well, that's probably made up. But then I started thinking, well, maybe Bigfoot is real. And so then I got some other inside information from a whistleblower that, yes, not only is Bigfoot real, they know about him and they protect him.
So one thing we're going to try to do this summer is create an S4 research team, and with that, we're going to be going up, setting up base camp in certain mountain areas up here. And there's certain areas in these mountains where there's UFO and Bigfoot activity simultaneously. I want to show scientifically, because we do have a scientist on the team, what the connection is.
I would like him to take a look at that rock.
Huh?
I would like the scientists to be taking a look at that rock where I heard Bigfoot knocking at the gravel pit up by the paint mine. And then we got to the top of the mountain, and it just opened into this cavern that you couldn't see the bottom of or anything. And it had that big, really thick band. I think it was about 18 inches wide of this, like, silica quartz streak, like, right through it. City Cumberland.
He's hopefully coming. He's only going to be here in, like, March, April, is what we're hoping for. Markham.
Really?
Yep.
That's pretty nippy up there that time of year, but we could do that.
I thought he was moving here.
Huh?
Markham, I thought you were moving here. What the hell?
So he plans on doing mobile lab.
A mobile
All right,
lab?
from Cedro to Mount Vernon, then back. That works. I'm okay with that.
Well, tell me, in the UFO field, a lot of people want to say that Bigfoot is interdimensional. I know I don't know if he's best-selling because I think his book is full of malarkey, but he said that he saw Bigfoot on a UFO with an alien gray and other things. But, my idea is, number one, Bigfoot can't even get shoes for himself. He's walking around in the freezing cold. And all these images I see of, the poles in the wood, shaped like a teepee, seem very primitive. I mean, I think Bigfoot is intelligent because they know enough to stay away from humans. But I don't think they could pilot an aircraft.
Really?
So... Yeah,
I don't think so either.
Most aliens, though, I imagine most alien races would look at us and say the same freaking thing, though. Okay, like, come on.
Yeah. Well, I just don't think he has Well, what I learned was they are native. They're native here. They have been here for a long time, but I just don't think that they would pair up with grays or different things that don't even look like them.
So I'm going to throw this out to you.
Okay.
So based on the evidence we've seen, me personally, I do believe Bigfoot's interdimensional. I've always felt that. I base that on one, First Nation Native American lore. Two, the fact that you can follow snowy footprints into the middle of a field and they disappear. There's no other sign. There's no trees to go up. It's just gone. I don't think they work with aliens, per se. But I do believe that they possibly get abducted by aliens like humans do.
That's a possibility. I hadn't thought about that. That's a good point. Very good point. Something I hadn't thought about.
Well, you see two sides to the coin. I have heard of the cases where, and I say this on the show so many times I get tired of saying it. But you see too many cases where you'll have a witness who sees a landed craft in the woods. They'll see Bigfoot get out, go collect water and soil samples, get back in the craft takes off. Mm-hmm. That shows, so they're not in cahoots with the gray, but maybe they're a slave to the gray or other races.
I wonder about that sometimes too. That you've brought that up a few times,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm wondering, like she had talked about the human alien hybrid program,
right?
Couldn't there be Bigfoot alien hybrids that would be on their ship and part of?
I don't even know it's a matter of they're always on the ship as much as it is, okay, we need to do this for us. Here, we're going to pick you up, take you to this continent. We need to do this, and we'll take you back home. You see the flip side to that coin, though, where you also have witnesses that will describe seeing a craft flying over the woods, and you'll see Bigfoot running terrified. So I've heard both sides of that coin. Now, what do I believe? I don't know. But what I do think is, if they're abducting humans, why couldn't they be abducting Bigfoot?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Bigfoot can also be guarding a portal behind Haystack, you know.
Oh, I have no doubt about that. Because I do believe Bigfoot is a guardian.
Well, because I'm telling you, we're this completely void of all sound, smell, everything. There's some weird stuff going on out there, and Bigfoot's there. So
I should believe me. I plan on taking a team. I don't go up there by myself. The last time I had some freaky shit happen, I took Cheyenne, my daughter, up the main hill, and we both heard it. She looked at me and was like, "Daddy, what's that?" Because it sounded like a metallic helicopter downdraft is what it sounded like. There's no helicopters around. We're in the middle of nowhere. You know, and animals don't sound like that. It sounded like metal on metal.
You remember when you were talking about your father-in-law and he saw Bigfoot and stealing chicken and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when you were sitting there telling me that story and I was able to jump in and say, right up through that ravine and around that spot and da-da-da-da-da? There is a path that he's taking because it was 10 years, 15 years previous that guy saw him take that exact same path that your father-in-law did, and he never went back up on that hill again.
If you look at this at the same valley that you're talking about, if you go on the other side of the mountain from that valley, it's the exact same strip. So again, I have no proof of it. Maybe we can get some instruments and go up there and do some testing. But there is a possibility maybe there's a base underneath there.
Do you have a drone that you can fly over the area, that one of those heat-seeking drones that can pick up creatures and things like that move in the forest?
We have access to one.
Oh, good.
We have access to FLIR.
Good.
Steve, if you're listening, you know I'm going to be calling you later. But
that's good. That's good.
He's got FLIR. He's got one of the top of the line high end drones. But you know, we went up there at 10 o'clock at night, pitch black. Why, I don't know. I really don't know what possessed us, because usually I won't go up that mountain.
That is fine.
It was me and Markham, and we were both armed. So you know, and I know a gun's not going to harm Bigfoot. I don't give a damn what they say. I don't give a damn about the people that say I shot Bigfoot. Really? Where's the body? So,
Washington, right?
That's a damn dog.
Bailey.
So, hold on.
Yeah, I think Bigfoot is protected in Washington. I don't think they can shoot him, which they should.
The kids are back from the Super Bowl game, so we gotta calm the dog down. But you know, Markham and I went up. It was pitch black. We had actually his night vision camera with thermal, and we were finding hot spots. Now, was it energy of plants? We don't know. We really still don't know to this day. But him and his scientific mind is going to come up with probably some new devices to play with and go figure some stuff out.
What about these deer cams? Do people set up deer cams anywhere around up there, Eric?
You know, we took our game cam up to Cumberland Pass, and that's just about 15, 20 minutes down the freeway, not the freeway, down the highway, down the South Skagit Highway from us. Right. And we left it out for about a week. Now we didn't pick up Bigfoot. We did pick up grouse. We picked up. But what was weird, and I'll find those pictures and send them to you. But we picked up
Oh,
what looked like fairy orbs.
Oh, no. Stop.
what color were they?
No fairy.
I'm trying to remember what color were the fairy orbs we saw from Cumberland.
Were they like see-through or a solid color?
They were see-through, and I believe one was blue.
Oh wow! I have photographed. I'll send you my order pictures. I have photographed blue and red, and also the see-through.
Right.
And that was back in North Carolina. I have also photographed them here inside where I live now. And Derek, I know he's posted those a few times, but I was able to capture those. I couldn't see them with my front vision, but my peripheral vision, I kept on feeling like something else is in this room. You know how you feel like when somebody's watching you, or it's like, you just have the hair stand up on your arm and your head. It was like that kind of feeling. And when I looked at the images, there they were. They were huge. Huge.
No, something's happening, and this came up in the Forest Moon Paranormal group, actually, last week, where somebody described a 4.5 foot tall being at the foot of the bed that was playing with her husband's feet.
What?
Well, to me it was you get laughed at, you get mocked, but there's no such thing as a gnome. Well, actually, it sounded more like a dwarf.
I've never seen a dwarf running up in the woods, you mean?
Or a house elf. And you say house elf. The first people think of is Harry Potter and
brownies. We're talking more about brownie if it's a 4 foot tall being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of them.
And what people need to understand is, yes, the Fae are very much real. There's you say fairy and people automatically think of the Cottingham pictures.
No idea.
I'm not familiar with them.
The Cottingley. I'm trying to remember. The
Cotley. Cotley pictures? The little flying guys?
Yeah, the flying fairies of England.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking like the ones that you see like in like artwork and stuff, like little Tinkerbell things with wings
like
floating around in the
sprites?
woods?
Yeah, they're similar to them.
Kind of, except they're more bug-like than that.
Oh, I don't think they fly in our forest.
Huh?
Oh, yes, they do.
They don't fly in our forest. I'm almost sure of it.
Huh? So, dragonflies are one perfect example of a sign of a fairy. If you have a dragonfly that comes in your house. But anyway, the point with this, something has been going on for the last 2 to 3 years where the Fae that are up on Haystack Mountain are under attack by something. We haven't figured out who's attacking them yet. But we're...
How do we know they're under attack?
Because they've told us. And
you talked to them.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Jamie, when you get back, I got some pictures to show you.
Oh.
I don't want to hear anything about my future abductee role when we're doing this here. Okay?
You're not going to get abducted by Faye. That's
no, Faye don't.
Well, I will tell you something to help you. And I am being totally open and honest with you. This is what I've heard. If you project the fear that you're going to be abducted or this group is going to come get you, you're drawing them to you.
Yeah.
You need to project.
Oh, spirit.
You need to just put a wall of protection around yourself, that nothing is going to come in those 4 walls to harm you, and don't relay any fear, because like I said, things like reptilians or some of these other strange entities, they pick up. It's like a beacon in the middle of the night, isn't it, Eric?
Yeah.
They will come to you. You'll draw that to you. So try to not project fear. Don't be afraid, because the times we were attacked.
I sit out in the field.
Yeah.
What?
I sit out in the field and wait. I think they're interesting. I'm waiting, but just the light bounces back and forth. It comes in and out and stuff like that. No, I'm not afraid.
Yeah, I was never afraid of the orbs. Now, Derek didn't like them too much, but I never really felt any harm from them because these orbs seemed like they wanted to be close to me, like they were observing me. It was almost comforting. I don't know what they are. I have no idea. But I did feel them and I did photograph them, so who knows what they are.
No, so the difference with orbs, I really don't like orb pictures because too many orbs could be insects, too many orbs could be dust.
Flashes of light.
Everybody throws up their orb picture and says, "Look what I got." Yeah, a big wall of dust.
Right. Well, the orbs that I captured are so big, they are not dust. I'll send them to you. I'll send them to you. They are huge. I mean, I'm talking about bigger than basketballs. I mean, these were big. Now, like I said, I've never seen one with my direct vision, but with my peripheral vision, like one time before they showed up, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flash up at the ceiling, like as big as a 50-cent piece. It was just like a flash, and I thought, oh, that was just probably a fluke in my eyes, just something. Right. But then the hair started standing up, and so I took my camera and just randomly took pictures in all the rooms, and then when I came back, I had those images. So, some people,
orbs, are they the fairies?
Some of them.
So orbs could be spirits can come across as orbs.
Yeah.
The Fae can come across as orbs. Aliens can come across as orbs. It's really a variation of color. It's a variation of size. It's a variation of action. Depending on what it is. That's how you can determine what it is.
I interviewed a German scientist by the name of Klaus. It was his last name, Heinemann Klaus, and he was in Germany, and he had researched orbs for 3 years. He had a PhD. He was highly intelligent. He wanted to find out if it was dust or something else.
Right.
And his final analysis, it was something else. He tried every condition with the dust particles to get them to show up. They did all kinds of experiments. And he said, I have come to the conclusion. His research partner left the research because he said, oh, no, this can't be true. Why are you believing this stuff? And when he released his book, he wrote a book about orbs. His scientific research was embraced. So orbs are not without some scientific backing. I mean, I can't remember. It's been years since I read his book, but he did experimentation for 3 years trying to reproduce orbs with his camera and couldn't do it. But the people that saw them all the time, he would go to their house and he would sit there and they would take pictures and there would be orbs in there as people that see them all the time. Now, the only thing I've heard about orbs is sometimes they can be a portal for other entities, creatures, or extraterrestrials. I mean, it could be any of them. I have no idea. I'm just guessing. It's like a portal for them to observe. But I mean, I have no idea knowing why they're here, but I have experienced them, and it's certainly fascinating.
Jamie, you still with us? She got dropped again. Okay.
Tell her to quit doing that.
Hello?
Hey,
Don.
There's Don.
Hey.
So, Don, how many pictures did we get in our rack that were nothing but orbs?
I'll call you back when I can. Thanks.
Orbs? A lot. And that's because of the dust.
Now, the difference between a lot of our pictures and normal orb pictures is we had dust storms. all the time.
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up.
Where did you go, Jimmy?
I'm going to try her one more time, guys.
Oh, we are having fun with Skype
Hey, this
tonight.
is Jamie. I'll call you back when I can. Thanks.
Oh, she left on purpose.
Yeah, Skype can be an issue. I remember whenever Derek and I had a super important guest, like one time we had a U.S. He was a general. He had UFOs had come over his base that he was at and shut down a missile silo. And right before we tested Skype, like an hour before the show, worked fine. 30 minutes before the show, worked fine. 1 minute before the show, all hell broke loose. We could not maintain a connection. I mean, out of every 10 shows we did, 7 of them turned out like that. So I think a lot of times it's no coincidence. I mean, the people that first invented Skype was military. Yeah. So, yeah. So, Eric, you know all about it, don't you?
That's actually where you and I met. Was you invited me to, and I can't remember who your co-host was from England.
Oh, it was Russ Kellett.
Yeah, there you go. And that's where you and I met, because he pulled me into a show and you were his co-host, and we were talking paranormal emergencies.
Right.
So, how long was that your first show, or how many shows have you done?
Oh, my first show was Skywatcher Radio. I did that for 3 or 4 years, and I simultaneously did a few shows with Russ. Mm-hmm. Then I did another show on my own called Starlight 17 Radio, which was more varied topics. It was a lot of different things. It was on masculine, feminine energies. It was also on just a lot of different topics besides UFOs. It wasn't really heavy on that topic, but I did that for a while. And then I started Notes from the Underground. I did that on a couple of big radio shows that had huge followings, but I had issues with both of those shows, and they turned out, one of them had us on their show. They didn't even believe in UFOs. They didn't believe in abductions. They had 2 other co-hosts on there that hated us, and they were one of them was in the military, and they said they didn't believe in abductees, and all abductees make stuff up. And right when Derek's book came out, all of a sudden we were off the show because the military guy that was a co-host was writing his own book, and he wanted to get rid of his competition. So after that, I just do radio shows on my own when I want to and control it myself, because nobody is going to tell me that this stuff is not real. When I was 12 years old, my father, we were all watching TV. I had 4 sisters. It was midnight. The moon was shining. My dad heard our dog barking, and he went to the front porch, and he come back inside. He was very excited. He said, "Y'all come out here." So there we were, half asleep, all that kind of stuff. We went out there, and when we got to the end of the porch, there was a small creek beside of us about 100 yards away, and then there was a steep hill with trees on each side, and then a big strip of pasture, from the middle of the hill all the way down to our creek. Up over that hill was a UFO, saucer-shaped. It was as big as a tractor trailer. It had a center band of rotating lights, and it hovered very slowly and came within 500 feet of us. That was in 1967 in the foothills of Virginia. We watched it for 30 minutes, and there's no mistaking what it was. Mm-hmm. We didn't have an airplane that looked like that. The moon was out. We could see it plain as day. It was like a gunmetal gray. our dog, which was the strange part, was looking straight up. When it came over the hill, he was already looking up in the air, and it didn't make a sound. Now, dogs don't normally look up in the sky and bark at things, unless it's something, well, I can't really think of anything a dog would look up. Maybe if it was a helicopter and making a lot of sound, but this made no sound at all. So I knew then nobody could ever tell me they're not real, because my father, my mother, my sister saw it. And after it was over, I said, Dad, we got to tell somebody about this. Let's call somebody. He said, they'll just think we're crazy. There's no use to call.
Yeah.
No,
So
I am a believer, Deborah, but I will say, just like anything else, it all has to be looked at with a level of scrutiny. Because there are hoaxes out there. There are people looking for attention. There are people looking to make money off it, unfortunately.
And they do. And they do.
And that is, honestly, unfortunately, a lot of people's nature. And
Right.
with that, though, you're like, all scrutiny has to start with your own experiences.
Right.
And when you
And-
get to that point where you're actually scrutinizing what you see and what you feel and what you hear, then it's a lot easier to start accepting what other people are seeing and hearing.
Right.
But, like, I have encountered a few people that I have to say, no, that didn't happen.
Well, and you know what? I'm going to agree with you, and let me tell you why. Because I come in contact with so many people, and, if you're a radio host, like I said, people will want to tell you their stories. I have had people tell me a load of crap. Mm-hmm. And I won't tell you what his name is. I've since, he blocked me because I didn't agree with him. He told me that aliens were outside his window shooting down in rays of light and coming in and roughing him up, dragging him across the floor. They came all the time in his truck. He said they would take his phone. I mean, constant harassment. And then he sent me a video. He said, look. Then he said, there's a ghost in my room. It's pulling the cover off of me. And he sent a video, and I thought, all I see is the corner of the sheet moving. It's not like, it's just like, somebody's pulling the sheet off. And he slept, he had 3 dogs that he normally slept with. This could have been a dog pulling off the cover. I said, there's no proof that this is a ghost. He said, oh, I know it was. It had to be. And then he sent me another picture of the outside of his window. And he said, this is just like War of the Worlds. They're coming down in these little chutes. And I said, no, you're mixing reality and fiction and creating a false world. And some people in the beginning, they have a real experience, okay? But after that, they become paranoid. They can't accept it mentally, and they imagine things happen, or they want to belong to a clique. Hey, I'm an abductee. Look at me. This happened to me, and it makes them feel important. Now,
and in order to actually continue with, like, they believe
they
in
have
order
to make up.
They have to continue that
world.
story.
Yep.
They have to make a false world.
Yeah.
And I see this all the time at conferences. I see people do that, and they're saying, well, I have all this news about Antarctica, and I know this, but they never tell their source. They don't tell anything. There's a very well-known psychic medium that had a lot of experiences that were real. And I read all the research. He was someone that did crop circles. And so he had a lot of really good information that was scientifically documented to be real. But then, out of the blue, he started showing manifestations on his head and said, this is what sent this to me. He started clamoring for stuff. So what happened was a filmmaker went to do his story, and the filmmaker said that he caught the medium faking a picture, and there was a big fallout over that. So I started researching people about false worlds, since I'd had so many abductees tell me things that I knew was not the normal. And I came across a lot of them. And one of them, I'm not afraid to say his name. His name's Richard Smith. He wrote a book about UFOs and reptilians and stuff. And he said that a reptilian female by the name of the Crone downloaded all the history of reptilians just to him. And he told, I'm serious. He told all of this stuff that nobody had ever said before. There was no proof. He made up his own promo.
Look at me.
Right. He made up all his own promo.
That's what you
I'll tell you how desperate he was. on his Amazon page for his book, he did this. Nobody else could. He wrote a review as someone else, and here's what the review said. Hi, I read your book, Richard. I'm from the future. I won't be born for 100 years, but somewhere I found a copy of your manuscript, and I just wanted to tell you I came back in time to write this review because you're wonderful and you know everything, and on like that. Okay, and then he tagged like every celebrity you could think of. So why did he do that? Trying to get publicity, making up stuff.
Nikki has a question for you in the chat room.
Sure.
Do any of the people you've talked to talk about being extremely angry about being abducted?
Yes. Yep.
I'd say that's a common I'd say that's a common denominator between that and fear, which are really very similar emotions.
Well, some people, some of the starseeds, say they have good experiences and they report they were healed of this and this happened to them and all that kind of stuff. Well, here's how I look about it. About the serious abductions, where I'm talking about you fall asleep and you wake up and you find marks on your body, or you experience deja vu, or you start not being able to sleep, you start waking up at the same time every night. These people that are truly abducted, you're being taken against your will by an extraterrestrial that does experiments on you. They take children. I have interviewed children that have been abducted that were terrified. One little boy was 5 years old, and he said, I can't go to sleep at night. I can't go to sleep because the blue people, they came through the curtain and they wanted me to go with them through a hole. And I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And he drew pictures of what? Grace. This is a little child. Mm-hmm. So they're not your friends if they forcefully abduct you.
No.
I mean, if a human being came through my door and abducted me at night, they'd be in jail. It's against the law. So what gives anybody, I can't say for sure because who knows, but we don't go to their worlds and sneak in and abduct them. I don't think.
Oh, I want to.
I gotta say, with what you were saying about psychics, it's really funny because Nikki, the young lady who asked the question just now, we just had her on our show a few weeks ago. She is a psychic. And I was going to say, she has made it so I have my own rule of thumb for them. If I can understand a psychic for every word that they say and every conversation we have, I don't know if I can believe in what they do. Nikki, when you talk half the time, I can't follow you. And that makes me know that you're really there. Like,
right.
So that's kind of my rule of thumb now for psychics is if I can't follow the conversation with you, all right, you have that ability.
Then you might be psychic. And so Nikki's also saying nosebleeds exactly the same time every day, not capable of sleeping, hiding in your room.
Right. I mean, the few times, I don't remember a lot about my abductions. I remember right before or afterward when I'm returned. The one time that I remember pretty well being abducted, that week, I first woke up at 3:33. I looked at the clock, and I don't know what woke me up. It was 3:33. Well, in the next 2 weeks, I woke up 3 or 4 more times at the same exact time, 3:33.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, why am I doing that for? That's strange. And then I had a dream, or I thought it was like deja vu or something. I didn't know. If you're a woman and you've ever had a baby, they give you this anesthesia where you can open your eyes and you see things, but you can't really process them. Well, it felt like I'd been anesthetized. I looked down at the bottom of my bed, and something around 3 or 4 foot tall was at the bottom of my bed. And I wanted to try to move, but I couldn't, so I struggled for a few minutes to try to move my hand or to fully open my eyes or to talk. I couldn't do any of that. So after a while, I sort of came to a little bit, and so I thought, man, I don't want to look towards that direction anymore because I might see that again. So I turned over on my side, and I had a nightlight in the room. And so after a minute or two, I opened my eyes halfway, and there was a small being about the same height, bent down, trying to look into my eyes to see if I was fully asleep or not. And so I quickly closed my eyes, and then I don't remember anymore after that. The other time that I experienced an abduction was in my 20s. Was in the middle of the night. I wasn't asleep yet. Through my bedroom window, which was I was in a 2-story house. Behind me was a big field, trees, fenced in, no houses, no roads or anything. No cars could get back there. It was totally just woods and stuff. A light came through my window so bright, it immediately made me think about an angel. You know, I'd read in the Bible about most people that saw an angel would drop down in fear because it was so dazzling white, right. And they didn't know what it was. So I thought, wow, what is that light? It lit up the whole room. The whole room disappeared into the whiteness. And I closed my eyes in fear. I thought, God, I hope that goes away. And then the next thing I knew, I woke up the next morning. So I didn't remember it right away, but during the day, it started to come back to me. So I went in my bedroom. I looked out the window to see if anybody had put a ladder up there. I thought maybe they had a flashlight, but it would have had to been like the spotlight from a lighthouse to put out that much light. It took a few days for me to remember the quote dream. The dream I walked down the hall. 3 beings came into the room. They were around 3.5 to 4 foot tall. They communicated with me telepathically. They asked me some questions about I had like a small bookcase over towards the end of the room. One of them took their hand and sort of waved it in the air, and without saying anything, I felt like they had scanned those books, and they had asked me about one of my books I had over there, about the content. So I asked them a few questions, and one of them was, where did you come from? Well, they told me where they came from, and I asked them a couple of more questions, and they answered that. And then I disappeared through, like I was sucked up through the ceiling, like into another place. And in that other place, I could move my hand. I was fully conscious. They were talking with me. And then before I knew it, I got sucked back down through that portal, and I was back in the same place. So after that, about 3 weeks later, I found out that I was pregnant. And so after about 3 months, I had two pregnancy tests. They were both positive. I had a spontaneous miscarriage. And when I say that, I went to the doctor. They said, oh, well, go on to the emergency room because, we'll test you again, but if you're pregnant, you're having a spontaneous abortion. So after they did a common medical procedure, which is called a D&C, the doctor came in. He said, are you sure you were pregnant? Because we can't find anything, although you lost a lot of tissue. He said, we did do the surgery, and, you had bleeding and everything, but we couldn't find any, at the amount of weeks you were, we should have found some fetal tissue, but they couldn't find any. So I thought, that's weird.
And that's hard to explain to people what, because the common hybrid program, the woman's impregnated, there's a 3-month gestation, the woman's reabducted, and the fetus taken. But when you look at the physical signs of it, it's exactly like you just described. It's hard to describe on the show, what a missing fetus looks like from the doctor's perspective.
Right. And that was very depressing for me. It took me a long time to get over it. And later, when I didn't realize at that time that was probably from the abduction, I didn't realize that. I couldn't put all of that together. But years later, when I was explaining all this to a researcher, he said, oh, you were abducted. That wasn't a dream. And then I had remembered something else. When I went through that portal, I asked them, I said, where did you come from? Where did you originate from? They told me. And I thought to myself, I got to remember that word. And so I kept on repeating that word because I could tell I was waking up from the dream. Mm-hmm. So I said it like 50 times because I could tell they were taking that out of my head. Well, by the time I woke up, the only thing I could remember was an S. It started with an S. So for 10 years, I tried to remember that word, could not remember it. And then one day, I was walking by the television, and they were talking about Samaria and the land of Sumer. And then it came back to me in like not even a half a second. It all came back to me, what they told me. They originated, said they came to Sumer, and that's where they taught people things and they did things. That was their origination. So I didn't know what that place was. I hadn't heard about it. It was the first time I'd ever heard it mentioned. Mm-hmm. And when I looked it up, I found out that the Sumerians talked about the Anunnaki and the visitors from the sky gods. And so I thought, well, what are the coincidences of that?
Right.
And so then I put things together, and it was making sense.
Nikki's got another question for you. So have you ever talked to women who are abductees who have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome?
No, not offhand. Now, I have read accounts of it because they've had multiple miscarriages. So, and women that they didn't even know that they had a miscarriage, and the doctor would be checking their cervix and everything. They'd say, why do you have all that scar tissue up there? And they've never, they didn't think they'd had a miscarriage or anything. So, some very odd stuff. I've even read reports of women in a hospital. This was, Daryl Sims did this research. There were 6 or 7 nurses and patients in a hospital that all got pregnant at the same time. And 2 of them were lesbians. They didn't have sex with men. One of them was in a coma. The other one had never been with a man before in her whole life. She was pregnant. And he researched all of them. They all basically got pregnant around on the same day. So I know these things happen.
Right.
And it's very disconcerting because women are so laughed at for even talking about this stuff. I mean, it was years before I even talked about this because it does sound crazy, but you know what? They're depending on that. They know. They program people to not feel comfortable talking about this.
Oh, and
I will mention the main thing that I have noticed with the true abductees is PTSD.
Yep. I would agree
I noticed
with that.
That is such a varied malady to have because it can encompass many things. I mean, Derek has PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you some things that you don't even realize. You could be sitting there and open a can of pop, and just from snapping the tap off of it, they will jump. In the middle of the night, if there's a strange sound, they will jump up in bed. Anything unexpected and sudden, it makes your self-esteem terrible. You know, you don't think highly of yourself. You don't want to be out in public. You're reclusive. A lot of vets, you can probably talk more about some of the symptoms, Eric, because, you know, of who you are. Why don't you mention a few of them?
Let's come back to that after this break. This is our last break of the night. So here is Cryptamnesia with Hell Within. We will be back with Debra Jayne East as for our last hour of our first night on a Sunday.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
stirring to paranormal.
Welcome back to S4. It's so nice being on Sunday nights from 7 to 10. I'm not up at 2 o'clock in the frickin' morning, although I probably will be anyway. But that's okay. It's my choice, not because we're doing a show till 2 o'clock in the morning. And like I said, it's going to be nice sitting here in the heat.
Yep.
In the summertime. Wow. And it's daylight.
I like
okay, we're going to be sweating our asses off.
I like
but that's
cold.
Okay. So... You know,
before you start, just for anyone who's just joining us, S4 will be at the Oregon Ghost Con.
Yep.
On March 27th to 29th. So make sure you get your tickets. They go on sale soon. We're going to be one of the vendors there, so come get your S4 gear if you're in the Oregon area. We're going to be in Seaside for that at the convention center.
Speaking of gear, apparently, when we did the new website, our store is not attached to the website. We're going to get that fixed so you can get your S4 mug. It's going to get fixed.
You broke the website?
I did, you know, we switched servers. We switched servers.
All right, so we're talking with Debra Jayne East. Take it away, Eric.
So, you know, tonight turned into an abduction show, which is fine. You know, alien abduction, and I've said this before, you know, when we were doing emergency management of paranormal, it was one thing to tell someone with a spirit, sure, the team can come in, we can remove the spirit, everything's hunky-dory, not a problem. It's another thing to tell an abductee, oh, shit. Well, let's see what we can do. You know, there's a big difference, which I think irritates the hell out of me with the paranormal field.
For now.
If
I figure out how to drive one of their crafts,
well,
we're going to be able to do a lot more.
Well, yeah.
I have found out that the paranormal and ufology, there's a very thin line between both of them. Mm-hmm. I've experienced both. As far as the paranormal, this is what I experienced. I don't think it has anything to do with UFOs or anything, but the first one was a house that we lived in, and it was back in the day. They just called it Tom Tabor's house. You know, we lived at Tom Tabor's house. He was a big farmer. We were out in nowhere. My mom and my sisters, we all had went to town. Okay, the house had a fence all the way around it. The backyard had about 300, I guess it was 300 yards that were fenced in, and past the fence about another 200 yards was these short little apple trees. Okay, the roof on that house was a tin roof. It wasn't gabled or anything. It was just a flat tin. I mean, it was shaped in a V, but it was all solid pieces of tin. Well, my father was sitting there talking to the landlord, Tom. Mm-hmm. And as they were talking, an apple rolled off the roof in front of my dad's feet. And Tom said, I thought you said your family was at town. My dad said, they are. There's nobody here. So they walked all the way around the house. There was nobody inside the fence. The apple tree was too far away. The wind wasn't blowing, so they thought, well, that's weird. So they went back and sat down and started talking again. And then 10 minutes later, another apple hit that side of the house and rolled off on the ground in front of them. So they had no idea, no explanation where that apple come from.
Right.
Okay. And then I remembered earlier a time when my middle sister, Irene, woke up in the middle of the night screaming at the top of her lungs. And my dad got up and he said, what's wrong? And she said there was something dark and black that when I started to go to the bathroom, you know, we always left the bathroom light on so we could see. She said it came out of the bathroom and it was coming after me. And Dad said, oh, you're probably asleep. She said, no, Dad. She said, I am 10 years old. I don't walk to the bathroom in my sleep. So I remember weird things, you know, like that, going on at the house. But the final weirdness was down the road, about a half a mile, there was 4 or 5 people that lived in this house. They were all old. And one of the women that lived there, she was like in her 60s. She always wore these long skirts, and she would wear like a little cape with a hood on it, and she would walk to the store. She was a very spiritual woman, just as nice as she could be. And then we heard one day that when she was starting to come across the bridge, a car had hit her and killed her. It was hit and run, and it killed her. Well, on the road, her blood was in a big, it was like as big as 3 5-gallon buckets put together, a big area of blood, blood that seeped into the pavement. If you went up and looked at it closely, which you did, the copper that's in your blood turns like a certain color, so you could plainly see this blood, in the highway. Mm-hmm. Well, 6 months later, they paved that road. They repaved it, and if you've ever seen them pave a road, they put down a bunch, and then they smooth it out. Well, almost immediately the next day, when people drove by there, you could see that blood stain. It evidently was showing on top of the pavement again. Do you know that they paved that road 2 more times in 15 years, and each time some kind of stain in that same area came up? It was almost like saying this was a good woman and it was a hit and run, and don't forget her.
Right.
There's no reason, I don't know any reason why anything would materialize like that. That was just a strange event that nobody could explain.
Time to go salted.
Yeah, so weird stuff happens, but this world has so many deceptions. We don't even halfway understand all the things that are going on. I mean, a lot of people are just totally blissful, and they like it that way. When you come across a show like this that's not afraid to approach any kind of topic, right, and to share stories, they're going to go, that's too scary for me. Let me get off here. I'm going to turn that off.
Oh my God. You just had to bring that up. So, 2 years ago, maybe 3, we're going on 4 years, so 3 years ago, when we first got moved on to terrestrial radio, they were airing us on Wednesday mornings, and apparently somebody complained because the particular show that they heard, we were talking about Krampus and Christmas monsters because it was Christmas time, and somebody bitched. Somebody called the station manager and bitched because I was shopping and my 10-year-old... Okay, first of all, why is your 10-year-old in the local grocery store at 10 o'clock in the morning when they should be in school? Because at that point in time, it wasn't Christmas break yet. But yeah, people are terrified of what they don't get or don't want to believe it.
I think there's one person on the air tonight that doesn't want anything to do with any conversations about black-eyed children, apparently.
What?
I don't want to talk about
it. I want to bring up how many contactees have you met? So not the abductee, not the one that's terrified, not the one that doesn't like what's happening to them, but how many people have you met that say, "Oh, how dare you say aliens are evil? I've never met an alien evil ever. They're all wonderful."
Well, I've never met one in real life. The only ones I've ever met are the starseeds that are at the... I'm going to just say it like it is. They're at the big UFO conferences. Right. And I look at their evidence. It's not the type of evidence that I have heard before. because the true abductions are a thing of fear. It's very rarely that aliens manifest right in front of your eyes in like daylight, because that hurts. Sunlight hurts their eyes.
Right.
They have protective eye gear on because they can't be out in the light. Paul Sinclair, which is one of the best ufologists over in the UK, he is a good friend of both Derek and I. He's got a book coming out called Night People, and it's really hard to scare me. It really is, because I've just heard so many different stories. His story terrifies me because...
You need to do me a big favor.
Sure.
After the show, send me a book list.
Okay.
Of all the books that you recommend and the authors, so I can start buying some of the good, reputable books. It's hard to...
Oh, good.
Every Joe Schmo has got a damn paranormal book, and it ain't worth their weight in paper.
You're exactly right.
Go to Barnes & Noble's in the New Age section, and you'll find 11 billion books that, you buy it, and you're like, oh my God, no.
Okay, to be fair, here's the thing.
I'm not fair.
When I pick up a book about ghosts, let's say, I don't want a book on the facts having to do with psychology and someone's opinion on the psychology of the person having the experience.
Right. We have our own,
I want their story.
We have our own therapist for that.
Yeah, I want their story. I want that chilling moment where I am with them as they walk down that hallway.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is it's too fine of a line that people that write these books can't have that story and make it factual.
Well, I think
Paul Sinclair will more than qualify for you to read his books. This is unheard of. I think he's got 3 books now. Every review, he's got like 160 something. They're all 5-star reviews on all of his books. Richard Dolan recommends his book. He's got all the other top researchers write reviews about his book. As far as I'm concerned, he is the best researcher over there. He's not only an abductee, but he also researches the Flixton werewolf, which terrifies me. I don't like werewolves at all.
Come on, they're cuddly.
Oh no! I watched back in
boy?
the day.
Who's a good boy?
Don't you remember American Werewolf in London?
Uh-huh.
I watched that. It terrified me. But
If
Paul
you would have
has
offered him a milk bone, that would have went very differently.
Paul has done some great research on a variety of topics, and I mean, I've never seen that many books with all perfect reviews. So Paul Sinclair is a definite to go on your list for paranormal stuff. In fact, a lot of his research is similar to what happened at Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, awesome.
A lot of it. So you definitely need to check out his books. I'll send you the
Send me a list.
titles and links. Yeah.
Does Derek still do radio circuit? Can we get him on the show some night?
He does, but he won't be doing one for a few weeks because he's wrapping up his 3rd book. But I will definitely tell him that you're interested.
Excellent.
Yeah, because he's so much... I mean, he's got a... Mind's like a steel trap. I mean, he has researched everything. He's got a better memory. I mean, I'm a grandma. I bake cookies. I never expected to be in this field, but it was meant to be, because if I hadn't have interviewed Derek for my show and came up here, his book would have never been published, because first, he didn't know how to publish it. He didn't have a agent or a promotion person. I just knew. I got that sixth sense when he told me about his experiences. I knew they were real, and he kept incredible documentation. He's interviewed over 2,000 people. I mean, he's got a lot of information. So you've got to remember that everybody out there that says they have an abduction experience actually has. There's a small percentage that are there to hype themselves. to make a sale. I mean, when we were at a contact in the desert, we actually heard the main promoter. She was talking to us, and someone came up and said, "Why didn't you get so and so to come here for the conference?" She said, "Because I couldn't afford him." And she said, "We have to pay him a lot of money." And I thought, you're paying for a scam person? But you know what?
Yeah.
There's people who love this guy. I mean, they're catching on now that he's fake. I mean, they're catching on that he's fake.
A little late.
Yeah, but, you know, someone like Derek, you know, that tells raw truth, we've never made any money from ufology. I mean, he made some money from his books, but we put a lot of research. We paid for everything, for all the... You have to get your book formatted. You have to get it edited. I mean, we had book trailers, promotion. We put a lot of money into it and a lot of time. I mean, we haven't made a killing. We barely make it sometimes. It takes a lot for us to have to go to conferences. You know, we make the contact. They did pay for our transportation there. You know, they had to fly us out, but I had to pay for mine. And they only paid for Derek's, and we had to purchase books out of our own pocket. And then when we got there, they hadn't even set up a table for us. They weren't even there, you know, to sign us in. Someone else was that didn't even know. So, you know, it's a lot of expense and trouble. I don't know why anybody would do this unless it's because they have a heart to help the people who have really experienced bad things, you know. And you do it because you care about people. It's like Eric. I know he does all this volunteer work. He has a heart to help people. When we were in crisis from trying to publish the book and were being attacked by archonic entities, I mean, heck, we had never been attacked by things like that before.
Right.
We didn't know what to do. We found Eric, and he believed us. He knew these things were real. He is a part of our story as much as anybody else was, because he helped us keep our sanity. Yeah. You know what? If we can do that for somebody else, that's
not me. I want to clarify. That's not me. I don't astral. That's the astral team. They took care of all that.
Yeah. Well, you set it up and you helped them facilitate it. You were the mastermind about getting all of that together. You offered us comfort. And there was no place else that could help us with that. That's why all of these shows, like Eric's and some of the other podcasters and shows, this is why this is important, because we have no other avenue to go to. And we don't make $50,000 to go to a UFO conference like some people do. Mm-hmm. We don't make tons of money. We do it because it's our life's mission.
That's because they charge you $500 for an autograph, or $1,000 for a picture photo op. I mean, you know, that's kind of. I understand having a name big enough to, but if you have a name big enough to charge those kind of rates, then you probably don't need that kind of money anyway.
No, you probably don't. And the thing about the conferences, you know, they give them star treatment. They have the best venue. They have people to sit there and run errands for them. I mean, I've been to the one in Arkansas, and I saw all the top names. I met them all, and they get star treatment. You know, the lesser known people. You know, you're there because they like to offer a variety for everyone. But the big ones, it's all about them. It's all about the money. It's their income. There is a researcher right now that owns a certain ranch, and I won't say his name because I'm friends with him on Facebook. You know, some people you just observe. But he recently came out with a book that said that he killed some grays with a samurai sword, and he's got a book for sale. And okay, I know this, Derek knows this, and the real true UFO researchers know this. There's no evidence anybody has ever killed a gray with the sword because they paralyze you. You can't move. They're not just going to come and try to attack you like that physically, they're small. They're not that big. They can't knock
Wasn't
down
that the same guy that said that because he attacked him with the samurai sword, he chopped his arm off and sent it off?
Yes.
That's the one from that was at Skinwalker Ranch, wasn't it?
Well, actually, he said that when he came back for the bodies, they had all disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was at Stardust Ranch. It wasn't Skinwalker.
Okay.
But I believe that story is being featured because Skinwalker Ranch is getting its own show.
Now, I believe Skinwalker Ranch, that happens, but...
No, but I believe that story's part of that
story
storyline now.
is being featured instead of the Stardust Ranch as a happening at Skinwalker Ranch.
Because Skinwalker Ranch is getting a show on Amazon Prime.
Seriously?
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Well, a lot of the stuff people report, there's some extraterrestrial activity, but most of it is our own military.
Mm-hmm.
They like these out-of-the-way places because they can have underground bases. They can camouflage them to look like a hill or a mountain. They put these rumors up so people will stay away,
Devil's Pass.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff...
It doesn't work for all of us.
Right.
We're going to end up in
the
jail.
majority of things people see in the sky is military. In 1993, my family, my husband and son came back and said, "Oh, there's a UFO. Come look. It's just a mile up the road." We got up there, but it was already too high in the sky for me to see, but we followed it for a ways, and I asked them, I said, "Well, y'all saw it close up, what it looked like?" And they said it was a triangle. It had a light in the middle and lights on the end. Well, we thought that was a UFO, but actually now I know it was a TR-3B.
Right.
It wasn't a UFO. So a lot of times, there's misidentification of stuff. It's a lot to sort through. I mean, it's a lot to sort through with all this information.
Now, I've got a question for you, because, that's my problem with the paranormal field in general. You can go to a paranormal group on Facebook, and you can bring up, people talk about their haunting and their entity attacks, and everyone's, we'll handle that. You got the other one that comes up and says, "I'm an abductee," and they get scoffed at by their own paranormal field, because I believe abduction, UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptids, and haunting entities are all part of the same umbrella.
Yeah, I agree.
And like I was saying earlier, you can go in and clear out a spirit, and hopefully another spirit doesn't come back in, or another entity doesn't come in, but again, that can be cleared out as well. You can't stop the abduction. So with that, a few years ago, I was trying to get some form of abduction peer support counseling going for abductees. And I contacted one out of Seattle. And when I told them what I was trying to get done, they got it, I won't say offended, but they got kind of standoffish, because they're a contacting group, not an abduction group. So I guess my question with that is, so sure, I do agree. There are there's good races out there. They're few and far between. I think there's more negative than there is positive when it comes to alien races.
Right.
But is it possible that some I won't say all of them, but some contactees actually have Stockholm Syndrome? What's your thoughts on that?
That is a big possibility, because as a social worker, I had a variety of clients, and I had a lot of clients that were sexually abused. And, of course, a lot of people that were sexually abused later grow up to be offenders, and they will start hanging around other sexual offenders because they find they fit in, they're accepted there. A lot of abductees, I think, it honestly depends on their education level, what they've experienced, what they know, and who's doing the abducting, you know? I think when it's more military, those are the ones that have the most severe PTSD. I mean, we all know that they experiment on American citizens all the time. They've been doing that for, 100 years.
Yeah.
They drop things on people. They give them drugs and tell them it's for one thing, but it's really testing a new chemical warfare thing.
Oh, that's not the military, though. That's the CIA.
Right. Look at the coronavirus. There is information that it was from a bio lab. They were experimenting on warfare chemicals. I mean, who knows? But a lot of victims do end up with that, and it's understandable. There's not very much counseling out there. You can't go to a psychiatrist and mention, "Hey, I'm an abductee," without them rolling their eyes and like going, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
Most of the people that counsel for abductions are online, and even some of those, I don't trust them because, number one, they're not an abductee. They're in it for the money, and they can easily sway people to believing things happen when they're not really happening. I see that all the time. On social media, they get out the tarot cards. I'm not saying that all of that is fake. I'm saying there is a lot of misinformation mixed in with that whole area of counseling, or with what's wrong with you? You're an abductee, so are you making this up? Is it a manifestation of something that happened in your childhood, or do you just want to belong to a group, Do you just want to be weird and have this experience and, look for attention like the Smith guy did? I mean, he's doing it to make money. All of his information is totally fake.
The problem is that happens all over the paranormal field, and it's happened for many, many years.
Yeah.
It does.
Well, it happens in every field. It wouldn't just be paranormal.
But the thing is, like, this one, they actually catch really famous people who I would honestly believe are a lot smarter than this.
Right.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Okay.
He got caught up in a story in England about the Fae.
Oh, yeah.
And it was young girls that took pictures with cardboard copies, or like pictures of fairies in front of them.
Oh, wow.
With the way he wrote his books, I would have thought he had to be smarter than that.
I think sometimes it's the will of wanting to believe, to where they let the obvious cloud their judgment and cloud their reality.
Oh, yes, I agree totally. I agree totally.
Yeah, I guess, because...
But the man had a PhD, did he not?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know if he did. But, like, he wrote Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
Like, the guy who could figure out everything.
Wow.
Hey, Don, you still with us?
Yep, still with you guys.
You got any questions?
No, this has been really interesting, actually, to be fair.
Well,
I mean,
go ahead.
I think... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I nothing.
I mean, nothing.
Well, Arthur Conan Doyle have a PhD,
Don? Nobody's perfect. Even I have, sometimes I have been given information, and I'll believe it for a while because I'm thinking, well, I have heard similar experiences, but then when I do more research, I look at their images and stuff, and I find out that, yeah, it is a fake image, and, they believe that. But they're very good at CGI. These people that create some of these images, you have to be really experienced in looking at them to discern if it's truth or not.
So CGI is today. The Sir Conan Doyle
Arthur Conan
situation.
Doyle was...
That was back in the 1920s.
Yeah, 1926 was when they first... the pictures first appeared, and these were literal cardboard cutouts.
Well, you have to remember when crop circles first came about. It was in the 50s, I believe. I'm not sure, but
have to
you
bring
know,
up crowd.
We're actually going to do that.
Men with planks on their feet.
We're going to try and see how hard it is to create a crop circle.
Yeah, we're going to make a crop circle here on Haystack Farm at our headquarters and see how hard it's going to be to do.
So if anyone sees it, it's not real, it's us.
Well, you know, all of this is so fascinating. I would have never believed a lot of this stuff, but, you know, I experienced it. My first husband died of cancer, and he passed away, and within a few days after his death, I remember speaking to my daughter, and she told me, she said, you know, Mom, I mean, she was in her late 20s when he passed away. She said, I feel so sad because I don't have any pictures of my dad and me together. She said, you know, we visited, but we didn't take many pictures, and I wish we had taken pictures. And she was very upset about that. Well, it was like not long after that, I had a dream. And I dreamed that I was in this room, and he opened a door. And he pointed at this Chester drawer. It had like 6 or 7 drawers. He pointed at one of the drawers to open it. And he kept on taking his finger and pointing in that drawer. And he didn't say anything, but he was pointing. And then the next thing, I remembered hearing a song. And all I could hear was like one line from the song. And I thought, well, that's weird. So the next day I called my daughter up and I said, I had the strangest dream about your dad. And so I told her about it, and I said, this was the lyric, a kiss at the end of the rainbow. I said, is that a song or a poem or what? And she said, that is Dad's favorite song. That was one of his favorite songs. And I said, oh, I didn't know that. And so I listened to it, and yeah, that was what I heard. But the other thing, when I told her about the drawer, she said, oh my God, in my drawer I've got 25 rolls of film that I have never got developed over the past 10 years. She said, I bet my dad and me are on there. Mm-hmm. So the first 2 rolls she sent off, the very first picture was a picture of her dad hugging her at Christmas. And she said, in that picture, I remember he said, I love you, baby girl. So I know that was a direct communication from the other side to me, because I could pick that up. I could see that. And I told that to my daughter. Now, there's no way I would have had a dream. I didn't know about that song. I'd never heard it before. It wasn't my type of song. I didn't know that she had rolls of film. So there are things that go bump in the night that are true and real. Unfortunately, there is also crap in the middle of the night that are made up, that are not true.
It's a matter of weeding through the chaff.
Right.
Is what I boiled down to.
Right.
So I'm going to ask you, like I've asked, I guess, the last 3 guests we've had on the show, where do you see 2020 with the UFO field? So I was on a show here, earlier this week, and somebody had said that they believe 2020 is going to see an implosion in the UFO field. Do you see that?
No, I don't see an implosion. What I have noticed in the last year is more sightings of craft that are termed as UFOs, but are actually our military.
Space Force.
Right. We have no idea what they have. They had the TR-3B back in the 60s or earlier.
Yeah.
they have had this craft, but they, of course, they don't want the poor old Russians or these other countries to have it. What they don't realize is these countries have also made pacts with extraterrestrials, and they all have their own, agreements and stuff. But I think, well, for me, disclosure has already happened because abductees, people like myself, Derek, we already know. The government already knows they're real. Mm-hmm. They already know.
Oh,
I think disclosure will happen inadvertently. Like, have you noticed about the Tic Tac UFO? I think that was an experiment. They put it out at first, and released it. I think the Star Academy and the guy from Blink, put that out.
Oh, God.
At first, they let it slide, but you know what? Now they're saying, well, when we released that, we weren't saying it was extraterrestrial. We were just saying we didn't know the origin. It could have been our own, but we didn't know.
TTSB is such a joke.
Right. I thought you bullshitters. Excuse my language.
Yeah, they are. They are, absolutely.
You bullshitters.
Nikki has a question for you.
Sure.
What do you think about building one's frequency, making it so much higher than normal, specifically to make it so that aliens cannot abduct?
You can't really do that. They are light years away from us with their technology. In my second book that's coming out, I have information about that technology that they use. And it is, to say that I was stunned is an understatement. It's just, you have no idea what they can do. You have no idea about their intelligence. I don't think anybody is totally safe from abduction if they want to abduct you. I think you can make it less friendly for them to abduct you.
So I'm not going to try to argue with you too much.
Mm-hmm.
But we have done it. It can be done, but it takes a lot of energy.
Right.
But if you have a high frequency, go ahead and try it, Nikki. Because, when we had our team going, we did actually raise our frequencies to a higher level than the races that we were actually battling. And
how can you measure that? How can you measure it?
I can't answer that. You have to know your own frequency, basically. And being in the astral, they did. And they were able to. But once they were able to get on site, we have stopped abductions before. And once they raised the vibration, raised the frequency of the location they were in, the aliens couldn't come in.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a matter of keeping that, and the team couldn't just stay there and keep the frequency up. They had to leave.
Uh-huh.
So, one thing the abductee could do was work on their own positivity. And that's how they raise the vibration or the frequency. So it can be done. It just takes a whole hell of a lot of energy.
Right.
More than most people have.
Yeah.
I'm not going to disagree with you either, Eric, because first of all, a lot of the best techniques and things that work haven't been documented.
Right.
They just work. Now, Derek and I have great experience with military abductions. We have developed sort of like a tag team thing, okay? Whenever he's sleeping and whenever I'm sleeping and there's going to be a military abduction, which since we've been together, it's only been about three or four times. Mm-hmm. The only thing we can do, we can't move our hands, we can't move a bit. We are trying to scream or yell, wake up, wake up.
Right.
All we can do is go, It's not even classified as a moan. It's a tiny sound. It's like, it's not even a rumble. It's so pitiful. I mean,
right.
We have both done it, and we've been able, and he will grab me and shake me and wake me up. Now, one time during a military abduction, I was laying in bed and I turned over to my left and someone was standing in front of me and they had some type of thing pointed at me. I don't know if it was a weapon or what it was. It was round. It had holes in it. It was like pointed at me. I felt my consciousness being pulled from my body.
Did it look like a flashlight?
No, it looked like it was round. It was about as bigger than a grapefruit. It was like not a gun, but some kind of weapon, and it had round holes. The end of it looked like a shower spray, with little holes in it.
Yeah. Okay.
It was pointed at me. I don't know if they were using that to abstract my consciousness. I don't know. But immediately it scared me so bad. I knew I felt my life was in danger. Mm-hmm. And it was only probably 6 or 7 seconds that I could see that because I could barely open my eyes to see that. I managed to make a tiny squeak, and when Derek grabbed me to wake me up, I could scream then, so I screamed and I grabbed him and I said they were trying to get me. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the same thing, when that happens to him, I have been able to hear him make a sound. I can tell when his dreaming is rapid. I look at his eye movement. We sleep with a night light. Mm-hmm. I see the breathing. The breathing is labored. I know he's in panic mode, and every time I have shook him and woke him up, it was always something involved with them and experiments they were going to do on him or different things like that. So with military abductions, it's much, if you know the technique and you know what to do, it's not impossible to get out of that. But as far as the real alien abductions, I don't know. I guess it would depend on the type of alien and what their purpose was.
It does. The grays are the weakest.
Yeah.
And the grays are the easiest to remove, I guess I could say.
Weak little bitches.
Yeah.
Well, your team is fantastic. I tell you what. I know you probably got different members now, but the expert
we don't have a team anymore. I don't do that
you don't?
anymore. I got out of that. We just do S4, and now we're starting the S4 research team, which will be handpicked, and it's not for emergencies. We're doing research now.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good. There's not a lot of people that do this kind of thing. I mean, at the time that we found you, I thought, wow, Eureka, someone that believes and knows, and it's like you were a lifesaver to us. So getting this information out and documenting it is very, very important, not just for UFOs, but for the paranormal. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would love to know what threw those apples over that tree. What was that black thing my sister saw? What about the blood that kept on coming through that pavement? What's manifesting? Why are these things happening? Is the veil so thin that some of these things can cross over into our frequency realm?
What? And I don't think it's really a veil per se. I don't think there's a thinning veil. And I say that because, everyone talks about the veil's thinnest in October for Halloween. But when it came to caseload, we were doing 3 to 5 cases a day.
Wow.
Year round. It didn't go up. It didn't go up at Halloween. It didn't go up during Midsummer, which is the other thinning veil point. There wasn't a jump, but I think it's human consciousness. I think human consciousness brings those things across the veil at those points. It's not a thinning veil. It's the consciousness all focused on fear, all focused on spirits at those points in time, are making them stronger to come across. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really does, because fear is a great motivator. Mm-hmm. I mean, that fear thing is extremely lethal in some cases because it paralyzes people. I mean, they're terrified. But, like I said, emotions are energy. And not everything people are trying to steal from us is something physical. They're after these things that the human body exudes, which is emotions and that type thing. But, you know, that's hard for a lot of people to believe unless they've experienced it.
Exactly. And I want to, because we're getting close to wrapping up here. So Nikki is saying she did try. She couldn't come down to her normal frequency, and it caused her medical issues. But they couldn't abduct her for nearly 7 weeks. So on that side of it, it was successful, but you don't want to bring medical issues as well. So I
would just say, like, try to practice, but at a lower level.
Yeah, I would start experimenting and document, Nikki. That way you know what level you should go to, that you can control and manipulate. So in wrapping up, where is Debra going to be coming up? I know you've got two books coming up that are about to be published. Do you have any radio shows coming up?
Yes, Derek and I are starting our own radio show.
Excellent.
And
where can our listeners find that?
Yeah, we're starting on it this week.
Okay.
You know, we're going to do our own thing. We're going to tackle, a lot of times it's not going to be guests, it's going to be our opinions on current issues coming out. It might be a sighting or information, or just some of Derek's upcoming books. But I also have access to some people that have never been on radio before that have information that they want out there. So we're going to be working on that. It'll be called Notes on the Underground. I have a Facebook page for that. So if you're interested, go and like the page. We'll be putting up the shows on there. My 2 books are taking a lot of energy because, you know, my family book, you know, it's a lot of information, different things. It's about the Withful UFO sightings in 1987, where there were over 3,000 sightings in a UFO flap close to my parents' house, and a lot of family history. But the other book, I've had to go about getting it published, I don't know how to say this, quietly. When I had another date, it was going to come out in December. My email got hacked twice. They came into my email. They sent me emails from my own email just to show me they could do it. It wasn't me. This same person, later they signed not their real name, but they had like a code name they always used. They signed that, so I knew who it was. The same people that attacked Derek and his book and went on Amazon, wrote crap, and so they did. Then they said they were going to destroy me, you know. So I've had to lay back. I haven't leaked much about the book. I've got a great book trailer for both books that's will be put out in probably 2 weeks for some pre-publicity. But that's what I'm going to be working on.
Make sure you throw all the information up on Forest Moon Paranormal Group.
Oh yeah, I sure will. So I can't really see past that. I think after these 2 books, I will probably retire from writing books because I want to do some fun things, you know.
Well, where can our listeners find your books right now?
These books aren't up on Amazon. They're in pre-publicity stage right now because they're going to be released. Oh, they're on Amazon. It's Debra Jayne East. It's just it's a paranormal book. It's called Radiance. You know, it's on there. You can find me on my Facebook pages on Synchronicity, Message of the Heartstone, which is the site for my new book that's coming out. Debra Jayne East. You know, just look that up. You know, on any of the social media. That's where you'll find me. I'm sort of the only one with that name right now in the field that I'm in.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Debra, for coming on with us tonight.
Well, you are welcome. I'm so excited about what y'all are going to be doing, and keep me updated on Bigfoot because he's got my attention now. I want to know when y'all go out if you find anything. And I appreciate Nikki and her information. You know, every time I go on a show, I always learn something from the host, and it's not just all about me. I don't have all the answers. None of us do. We all are a part of the puzzle, and when we work together like this, we can accomplish great things. And so I just want to thank y'all for inviting me on the show.
Exactly. And yeah, I'll definitely be in touch. Make sure you get me a book list of books that we need to get.
Okay. And send me your address as well, Eric, and I'll get a book to you.
Will do.
All right. Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, another excellent show, I think.
Indeed. And we'll be getting Derek Tyler on here as soon as he's available and wants to come on the show.
Perfect.
And let's see, what else? Make sure you catch us next Sunday at 7 to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Always awesome seeing you in the chat room, Nikki and Christopher.
For anyone in the United States, don't forget to join us March 27th through 29th at the Oregon Ghost Convention in Seaside, Oregon. We are going to be there vending with a lot of great speakers, a lot of great workshops that they got going on. Make sure you come down and check out our booth. It's tax season. Don't forget to check out Zip Refund, Darrington, Washington. They're on Facebook. Get your taxes done through them.
But with Zip Refund, it's pretty much by appointment only. So look them up, Zip Refund Darrington on the Facebook site. You can get Izzy's telephone number, biz number, and get an appointment made for her.
Yep.
And with that, we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us, Jamie, while you were here for the first hour, and Dawn for the second 2 hours. And stay safe out there, folks. Keep your eyes to the skies.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on S4, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. You can contact S4 through our website at www.s-4radio.com or on Facebook. Make sure you give us a like on our page and join the Forest Moon Paranormal group. If you are interested in advertising, take a look at our packages and contact Cole or Eric at 1-360-999-2830. Again, thank you. And remember, keep your eyes to the sky.